Greetings and welcome to the Stoic Gamer podcast. My name's Michael Bolton. In this podcast, I talk to players at all different levels of the hobby about their experience going to competitive events, whether it's their first time or whether they're a seasoned old timer like myself. I discuss the events we're going to, I discuss the events we've been to, and I talk about everything from army building, rules queries, happenings on the table to hotel disasters and culinary and gastronomic accidents, all part of the hobby and all part of visiting different parts of the country and the world as part of our fantastic 40k hobby. If you like this kind of content and you want to hear more, please let me know. If it's on YouTube, please just leave something in the comments. I'll always get back to you if I can. And if you're listening on any other kind of platform such as Spotify, do leave me a message. I can get back.
Right. Greetings, listener. Today, on the other end of my digital telephone line, I've got Kyle Grundy. Now, Kyle is... I'll tell you what, I was going to introduce him and tell you all his accolades, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. Kyle, introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name's Kyle. I'm known as the Tau Guy. I was mocked for being the Tau Guy, but I have outlived the joke. It's been 24 years. 24 years of playing the faction. Nobody jokes about it anymore. They fear me. Yeah, I've been around the competitive scene for a while. When fantasy died, I decided that 40k was going to be my new obsession. And I fell in love with the faction Tau, and it's taken me through a journey. Let's just say that. Playing regularly with Team England and all of our old community when we used to play at Element Games. And that was quite a while back. And since then, I've gone to events all across the world, LVO, WTC, all of the UKTC events. And I've managed to get a few titles, top Tau in the ITC for a couple of years running. My recent success, I suppose, on my two last events that I did really well was the LVO, where I was the only UK player to make the final cut, and with Tau as well, so going undefeated up until that point. And then I've recently come second at Goon Hammer, only losing to Josh Roberts, the eventual winner. And
Did he?
That actually comes with a really exciting opportunity for me because Josh, because he's just amazing at playing the game, he'd already got a golden ticket from Nottingham. So I got the golden ticket because I came second. So I'll be going to the Atlanta Warhammer Championships. So I'm super stoked for that.
You are a lucky man.
I know, I cannot wait. My bank balance is a little bit apprehensive, let's just say that, because it is quite an expensive flight. But yeah, I also worked with the Vanguard Tactics crew and did coaching for them for a year. Absolutely fantastic community. Love being part of that. And
that's where I know you from because I know Stephen and I've seen you on one of his several of his videos. So yeah, that's where I've got you.
Yeah, and then since then I decided to go on my own adventure and run the Pure Tide program, which is a Tau-only coaching and training service. I run a very successful Discord. It's growing. It's a beautiful community. And that's where I offer all of my juicy secrets and top-level tactics. And
I'll tell you what, Kyle. At the end of after this, when we're off the air, send me over the links, and I'll put them in the the verbiage at the bottom of this, so that everybody else can actually go straight to it.
That'd be amazing. Thank you. No, so yeah, you can find the Discord link. I'll put it in the descriptions. And obviously it's a free community, but then obviously if you want top level tactics and you want to improve your performance and your confidence in using the faction, now's the time to do it because we've just had some spicy leaks.
I saw. Let's stay on target. In the words of Han Solo and all the rest of it. Let's not mess about because otherwise we'll be here for hours. So Kyle has kindly agreed to join us in another one of our occasional series of Expert Challenge, where an idiot like me tries to put together a list and somebody who knows what they're doing tries to put together a list. And then we have a little bit of a chat about why they are different or why they're the same or our design philosophies. Now, I just watched Kyle on a podcast with the Pantheon Studios Australia, where he explained really clearly how he arrived at the list that he's been using. I think it's the one you took to Goon Hammer, isn't it? Is that the one
That's
you
the
took
one.
to Goon Hammer? Yeah. And he explained in great detail. So hopefully we'll do the similar thing here. But for all of you Tau players out there, you're going to be sorely disappointed because rather than make it easy for him or for me, because I'm not familiar with this, we've both sort of arrived at putting together a Grey Knights list that we can talk about. And that's a bit of a challenge, I'm assuming, for you, Kyle, as it is for me.
Yeah, it's a new faction. I've played against it, but I've never, been the general of that army. So it's an interesting, fresh perspective that I'm going to have to create on how to utilize this army. So,
well, what I did when I spoke to Vic the last time in the last episode of this series, what became very clear was that he designed his list based entirely on external factors. So he was looking at what the meta was doing, the kind of terrain that was at the events he was going to. He was looking at the players who he would probably meet and all of that kind of stuff. And then he built his list to meet that challenge. Whereas I always look at my internal structure and I go, oh, that's a good unit. That's got a big gun, or that can do this. And so this time I've taken a leaf out of Vic's book and I've tried to think, well, who are the armies that are doing well? Who are the armies that I might fight? And I've tried to build an army that will meet those. And I'm forgetting about the stuff in the middle of the table who will probably beat the Jesus out of me, but we'll just worry about that as we go along. So, shall I start or do you want to start, Kyle? You start. You tell me what roughly your design philosophy first, then I'll tell you mine, and then we'll go through the units.
So the first thing I did was obviously looked at their actual army rules, and obviously we're making the list around 2,000 points, so strike force, and being able to pick up 3 units at the end of your opponent's turn is super powerful, especially in the meta where you're having to react to secondaries, board control, maybe enemy infiltration, scout units and stuff like that. So having that ability just to kind of go, well, I need to be over here. So, or I need to be over there. So I wanted to kind of like really utilize that with some damage dealers, but also some mission play stuff as well. So I was factoring that in terms of my army philosophy. And with Grey Knights being able to do a considerable amount of damage now with units that got cheaper. And obviously I'm not going to say specific units because that'll kind of spoil it. So I wanted to kind of have a bit of a combination of mission play and damage dealers that can teleport around the board plus characters. So I really kind of looked into that. So my design philosophy was looking at UKTC terrain, looking at kind of how I can utilize angles and certain units to kind of pressurize what's currently evolving in the meta. So what about yours?
Similar. I looked at what the latest updates had done for Grey Knights, and the thing I noticed most was the buff they gave to the cannons on the Dread Knights.
Mm-hmm.
So -2, ignore cover. I think, that's suddenly damage 3. I think they are from memory now. I'm looking at it, but I'm thinking, they're good. I like those. I'm going to keep those. And they've got an incinerator, which is also -1, ignores cover, D6, 2d6 shots. I like those. I'll have some of those, I thought. I also thought, I looked at the Purifier squad. Now, I fought one of these a couple of weekends ago at Board in Brum. And Castellan Crow, as a leader with the Purifiers, was awesome. +1 attack for every Purifier. It's pretty damn good. So that's what I thought. So my view was exactly the same as yours. Who am I going to fight on the top tables? Not that I'm ever going to get to the top tables, Kyle, but assuming by some fluke I'm looking at custodes. Now, I reckon that if I can get the angles on a bunch of custodes and fire everything up, I can take a unit off a turn, which I can't do with my Necron list because they just don't have the damage output. But these guys, if I can get them in the right place, I reckon a 5-man squad of wardens or something sitting on an objective, I can take them. So, and then over the course of 3 turns, all of a sudden they've got no secondary game. They're not going to be playing primaries, and I'm in for the win. That's my plan. Similarly, against something like Eldar, those little 5-man squads flitting about, I'm just going to blow them away with incinerators because I can just follow them around and they'll score once and they won't score again.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking about. I'm a bit worried about anything that's got a lot of armor. A knight army. I'm not certain whether strength 10 side cannons are going to be good enough. But hey, volume of fire has a lot going for it. And then I've got a couple of little units chucked in for mission play, and I'm not sure whether to take tactical or not. I mean, it's got to be tactical because you've got to be jumping around. But I think it can play both.
Yeah, I think it can definitely play both, tactical or fixed. But you really kind of want to bank into the speed and the power of the armies. So tactical is really good at top level play because not only can you generate CP, you're also not giving away your game plan to your opponent. And I think when you get to the top tables, fixed can be a hindrance sometimes because it's putting a bit of ownership in your opponent's hands with the tempo of the game. So I'm probably leaning towards tactical more than fixed, unless it's an obvious pick.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Right, do you want to tell me what you got in your in your characters and why? If you've got, well, you've got to have one.
Well, yeah. So this was influenced by a few things that I've witnessed firsthand. The Goon Hammer, because I played against Grey Knights in the final round. So I've taken Kyle Grundy because of his ability. I think it's the +3 to charge.
Yeah.
Which is just super powerful, especially you're banking into that teleport. So teleport away, come in, boom. You need a 5-inch charge. A 6-inch charge. And CP reroll as well. So that's really powerful. And I just took him for that ability. Didn't bother looking at his damage. It's still strength 6. I think it's AP 2 damage. And I thought, right, cool, brilliant. I've got that. Guaranteed charge, if you say. Then I went with the Brotherhood Librarian. I gave him a combi weapon and the Sigil of Excellence of Exigence, whatever it's called. The one that basically you target it and then it just goes, nope, see you later, once per game. And then I went with a standard Brotherhood Librarian, just on his own with a combi weapon. And then I, like you, really liked the side cannons and the heavy incinerators. So I thought, well, when I think of Grey Knights, I think of the Matrix, where they're in those robots and just shooting stuff. And I was like, yep, all right, okay. So Grandmaster and Nemesis Dread Knight, and I've taken 2 of those with the hammers and the heavy incinerator and the heavy side cannon. So that's my characters. Now, I am aware that one of the downsides to kind of taking all these characters is you're giving away assassination. But to be fair, the characters are really powerful, so you can just deal with it. So a little bit of a worry, because I don't like just going, here, potentially have 20 on assassinate. But I think with Grey Knights, you just kind of got to go all in, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I've got. I know you've got 5 characters. I've got 5 characters. Exactly the same lines as you, but I've gone an entirely different way. I've decided that the last thing I want to be is in close combat with anybody. What I really want to do is to shoot the bejesus out of people. So I've gone with something a bit different. I've gone with 2 Brotherhood Tech Marines who get they get to be lone operatives if they're within 3 inches of a vehicle. A Dread Knight Grandmaster, same as you, but I've given him the great sword because I like the hitting on 2s, but then you lose out in the damage, and I don't know what your thoughts are on that, whether it makes a big difference or not.
I think the hammer is just, for a start, I went proper unga bunga, just hit stuff with hammers, bam. I looked at the damage profile, I was like, yep, I like that. I'd prefer the damage over the hit on 2s.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. And then I've got Castellan Crow to go with. Guess what? A unit of purifiers, which I've kind of. So the idea here is that not so much that I get involved in combat if I can help it, but if I can drop in just within range of things and destroy what I'm looking at, hopefully I can keep out of trouble. And that's the plan. That makes sense?
Makes sense to me.
Oh, I never thought that would happen. What you got in your... Oh, sorry, yeah. So what am I talking about? I've got two. I've got more characters. I've got two Grandmasters. Sorry, I've got two Grandmasters in Dread Knight, both kitted out the same way. I've got Castellan Crow. I've got two Brotherhoods, Tech Marines. I'm assuming that your librarians have all got Vortex of Doom.
Yeah, I was about to touch on that. Yeah, so I looked at that ability, and just having some guaranteed mortals
great.
is really good. And
It's
I think
great.
what I really like about just guaranteed, well, I say guaranteed, you could roll a one, but statistically you're not going to.
No.
It's just that reliable damage. So you're just going, okay, I want that thing dead. And if you've got multiple things like on a few wounds left, you're not having to put in your heavy side cannon or your flamer to kill something. You can just go, right, mortal wounds done. And I've got two of them, so I've got two potential 2d3, or potentially, if I rolled that sweet 6, I get 2d6 mortal wounds. And I like that because combined with grenade stratagem maybe as well, I can just really do some decent offense. And actually, the sigil guy
of exigence or whatever it's called,
doesn't always have to go in a Brotherhood Terminator unit. I could just have him being the solo one, so he can go in, deep strike 3 inches away, do the mortal wounds to like a character or a lone op or something that needs to die, and then when it gets targeted, just run away. And if they move within range, I can run away that way as well. So
yeah, you can with the mists.
With the mists,
yeah.
So
I like that. I hadn't thought about that, but actually, so you could actually give the librarian the runaway stuff. He can deep strike in 3 inches away. He can throw some grenades. He can do his blooming psychic vortex of doom
and do an action. Can't do it. You can do grenades, and because you're eligible to shoot and still do an action.
So do grenades happen in the movement phase then, rather than in the shooting phase?
Well, it would be if you, for example, if you teleported him in.
Yeah.
And then in your shooting phase, you do homers, but you could do, because you're eligible to shoot before you declare the action, you could do grenades.
I thought that was a shooting attack, but nevertheless, that's great. So he can do. He's well. So I'll give you.
He could do his vortex of doom.
Yeah,
I think so. I think.
Yeah, no, he definitely can do that.
Yeah, vortex of doom, and then you could do grenades, and you could still do an action.
Well, that's going to kill quite a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I fought one, and the guy threw a 6 and killed all my 10 flayed ones without even breaking a sweat, which was disturbing, to say the least. I didn't like it. Never mind. So I'm moving on. And my last character, because I've got even more characters than you, was I had some points left over at the end, so I threw in an Eversaw Assassin just for shiggles as much as anything else. But I actually quite like him because he's another one of those naughty little units that can advance and charge, and little 5-man squads that people are dropping in all over the place are not going to like him running into them. And I kind of like him a lot. And in fact, I know everybody takes the Calidus Assassin because of the Vect stuff and all the rest of it. But I like this guy. I think he's really good. And then you get to pick whether he's got lethal hits or sustained hits. I think he's pretty tasty. For 75 points, I'll have him. So I've thrown him in as well.
I was thinking, because obviously with my list construction, I noticed that the Grey Knights were like kind of really odd points, and you had like 100 points or something, and you're like, oh, what can I put in? I can't
Nothing.
Put a anymore. I can't put anything in. I was like, oh man, I've been blessed with Tau being able to have really cheap stuff, and I was like, this is really frustrating. But then also because of my, I've never had allies and stuff like that. When I tried to put in an assassin, it had an error on the list, and I was like, oh, I don't quite understand it. Oh well, I'll just ignore this. But I would have gone with either the Calidus or the Eversaw because he just adds that extra bit of flavour. So I like that you put the Eversaw over the Calidus because you can just have that another combat threat, right?
Yeah.
You can get in there, get down and dirty, and he can be removed, but he's not that easy to remove. You have to put something decent into him.
Yeah, you do, and he's a lone operative, so you've got to actually get in his face if you want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what have you got now? I'm pretty sure I got an idea of what you're going to... If you've got Drago, you're going to have Terminators.
Yeah, you guessed correctly. So I've got 2 units of Brotherhood Terminator squads with the upgrades, the banner, and the Narthasium. And I've got 1 Terminator in each of the squads with the incinerator.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to kind of bank in on, right, well, I'll put all the heavy lifting on my Dread Knight Grandmasters and my Dread Knights. I've taken Dread Knights. Shock. And then the incinerators are just helping dealing with elves and
Yeah,
just little weak little units that are trying to do actions and stuff. And because I can teleport around the board, I can get to them. And then if I can't get to a unit that's maybe really kind of deeply hidden in cover, then I have always got that stratagem to deep strike within 3 inch way and just get rid of their trading pieces.
yeah, that makes sense to me. That
And
definitely makes sense.
in
What else you got?
the rest of the battle line now, with the way that I wanted to create the list, I do need to have some units that kind of hold back and then make
Yeah,
objectives mine. So strike squad. Now, the strike squad makes objectives sticky, if I'm getting that right.
yeah,
So what I do in my normal lists is I'm always thinking about the non-negotiable objective that I need to keep, which is obviously the home field, and then the other objective, which would be what I call the fortify objective. So having 2 units of strike squads allows me to potentially at any given point make 2 objectives sticky when I then full send the rest of my army.
yeah.
So forcing the opponent to kind of deal with what's in front of them and then just giving me some free primary without having to have my resources hold back. And obviously, you need to be in the command phase to do that. So, first one's easy to set up. The next one, get a strike squad on another objective, and then the next command phase, it's sticky. So, timing is really important. But I wanted 2 of those in just to be able to not have to care and not have to hold back a really important damage dealing unit like some Terminators sitting on an objective and they're not doing anything. So I didn't want that. I wanted to be free to go and commit heinous crimes.
I'm glad you've said that. That's entirely not what I had in mind when I was thinking. In fact, I've got no strike squads in mind. Um, I like it. So basically, what you've got there is you make it sticky, and then when you get to your sort of go turn, you
Mm.
don't have to worry about those things because they're your objectives, and you're going to be pressurizing the enemy wherever you want to put pressure on him.
Yeah, and if they somehow take it from me again, then I can always, at the end of their turn, pick up a unit and then deep strike it within 3
Yeah,
to go and reclaim it. So I'll always be looking for people not screening out the center of the objective because then you can always get on the edge of it. So, and in those strike squads, I've obviously got another incinerator. So every one in a 5-man unit, you can take 1 heavy weapon. So
yeah.
I've literally got anything that can take an incinerator has got it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, my battle line troops are just 2 units of 5 Terminators.
And I
I'm
presume
tr-
you've given the upgrades to regen 1 Terminator back. I think it's the upgrade of the Narthasium, which I
no,
think.
because you have to give those to a character, and I haven't got a character that can join the Terminators.
Ah,
So no is the answer. And
okay.
the reason for that is actually like I was running out of points, and the point breaks were quite odd. I found them really
Yeah.
difficult. I ended up, like you said, with 100 points, which you can't get anything for. It was just stupid. So I ended up thinking, right, what I'm going to do is, seeing that my philosophy is to get angles, kill things and objectives. What I'm going to do with the Terminator squads is I'm going to make sure that my home objective is safe. I'm going to have the 1 Terminator squad on my home one, and then I'm going to discover what did you call it? The fortified objective.
Yeah, the one that you've been wanting to go and get.
Yeah, the next one, I'm going to put that other unit of Terminators on that one and say,
Mm.
okay, now that would free me up to actually do what I want to do with the rest of my army, and I'll tell you about those after you've told me what the other stuff in your army is.
Yeah, so just before we do that, the Brotherhood Terminators, I really liked the Hammer Hand psychic ability to give them lethal hits when they make a
Yeah,
charge. That just helps connect your
it's
strength
really
6
good.
AP 2 damage. And the Ancient Banner gives the an extra OC, so they become 3 OC each,
Yeah,
which is really nice. And then
yeah,
the Narthasium, in your command phase, you can return 1 destroyed model, excluding characters, to the bearer's unit. So
yeah,
again, for that kind of movement jank that you can do, where you can
yeah.
create another one, get a bit of extra distance, I really like that. So any kind of jank in the tank, I'm like, put it in. Let's go.
Get that
So,
extra 2. Get that extra 2-inch plus a base
extra
move.
2 inches plus a base move, like 3.5 inches extra. I'm like, yes, please, thank you. Put that in the bag. And then the rest of the list is going to be really easy. Nemesis Dread Knight, Nemesis Dread Knight, Nemesis Dread Knight. Just basically triple of those. And the reason it was obviously inspired by they are cool models.
Yeah.
And in my head, that's how I see Grey Knights, because the Matrix, like I mentioned at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Absolutely. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But I was really impressed with them when I played against them at the Goon Hammer Open, because I was like, for 185 points, they'd received a similar sort of treatment like Riptide did. They got cheaper and they got a buff. They're great.
Better.
And I armed them with the heavy intercessor, the heavy, the side cannon, and then the demon hammer. So I was like, cool, 185 points. I'll take 3 of those. Perfect. So I've got 5 of these guys, just with 2 Grandmasters, 3 of those. And I was like, sweet. That feels like Grey Knights to me, and I like that. But the good thing about these Dread Knights is that when I looked into it, and even when I got told it by my opponent, I was like, that sounds really good. But their abilities, this model is eligible to shoot, declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced or fell back.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. And then they've got the stratagem where you can just auto-advance. So then 14 inches.
That's the whole army. The whole army gets the auto-advance 6 inches.
I was like, wow, okay, so I can go 14 inches and then charge and shoot and fall back. And the pressure that you could apply with these is crazy good. So I was like, more of those, please.
I like it. No, I did the same. What else do you have? Anything else in your... That's it.
That is literally the list.
Well, I went a slightly different way. I put in 2 Dread Knights, and I've gone with the Great Sword because I want to hit. So I've gone on 2s, but I understand the difference. I do, but I've got a reputation for rolling shit dice. So I'm thinking if it's 2s, I can't be quite as shit as usual. So we'll do that. So I've gone for 2 Nemesis Dread Knights, and the reason is my plan is to put a Nemesis Dread Knight, a Grandmaster Dread Knight, and a Brotherhood Tech Marine as a kind of combat unit. And those 3 guys can be picked up and they can be dropped somewhere where they're going to do damage. Now, obviously, if we can move 14 and charge when we might not need to. But actually, I find that's going to be quite good. And they get +1 to hit because of the Brotherhood Tech Marine, if he's within 3 inches. So everybody's hitting on 2s virtually all the time with everything.
Yeah.
Which is kind of tasty, if you ask me. So I've got one block that can sit and do whatever it wants to do, run 14 and do whatever it wants to do, and the other block that can teleport and drop in and do whatever it wants to do. So I'm thinking there's most areas of the board I can get at. The techie piece, a bit like you, is I've got 2 interceptor squads because these are the guys that move 6 inches after the
shoot.
Yeah. And I love that. I love it in my Necron list with Tomb Blades. I love it with in my Necron list with the Chronomancer guy. This is great because you can pick one of those up. You can blow the bejesus off something on an objective, and then you can move 6 inches with these guys after they've shot and just put a foot into an objective that hopefully won't have anything left on it.
Yeah.
So I like those. And you put them in reserve. There's always going to be an objective within 6 or 8 inches of the table edge. You're going to be able to jump on an objective. One of those, the ones on the side of the tables. You should be able to get something. And it makes the opponent think about, well, hang on, I can't just leave that on its own because these guys, even though they can't deep strike, I'm going to an event this coming weekend where they're using the additional rules, and one of them is you can't deep strike onto an objective. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's in the Leviathan book set. And so these guys are going to be great for that because they'd be able to arrive and go, I'm not on an objective, and then just step onto it.
Oh, I know what you're on about. It's a specific mission where you can't scout move or infiltrate or deep strike onto objectives. Specific Leviathan mission rule. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I think
I like to see people using different rules rather than the same old.
Yeah, well, this is Battlefield Birmingham again. It's a 2-day event. Harry Allen runs that one down there. They've got some strange terrain arrangements, but other than that, it's quite a good little. There's 90 odd people going, so it's not a bad. Oh, Manny got the last ticket though. I'm not sure I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Oh look, Manny sneaks in. Everyone's like, Manny's not here. Then Manny just opens the door. Hi guys. Like, God damn it!
Okay, so I've got 2 interceptor squads, 2 dread knights, a purifier squad to go with Castellan Crow, and just basically bully people because it's a tough old unit and it deals out damage like it's going out of fashion, and then the Eversaw at the end. So I'm looking at yours and I'm looking at mine. They're not that different, really, are they? You're using your Terminators a bit more aggressively than I intend to.
Yeah.
I don't have much in the way of close combat. Well, you say that I've got four dread knights, which
It can add up. It can add up. I think the only one thing, and obviously your construction of the list is got, I'd say, a few more mission play tools than I have. Especially with the shoot and then move, and
yeah,
then
with the
like,
interceptor squads.
that's really nice. And I had a look at that, but I think I'd already burned off all the points and the stuff, and then I had to go back to the start again. And I was like, no, just stick with it. But I think the other thing that I was factoring in as well is we're seeing a lot more tougher vehicles in the meta as well. People are either stat checking you on infantry or stat checking you on tanks, or if the army's cheap enough, it can do both. And you're seeing a lot of land raiders, and obviously land raiders. It's not that they're just they're tough anyway. The T13 or T12, I can't remember. Something's of a land raider.
I think they're T13 now.
T13, yeah. So and also Marines armor contempt. So that AP2 becomes AP1, and you're wounding the Land Raider on 5s because you're strength 10 with the sword.
Yeah.
And then it's AP1, which is not really doing much. In fact, probably nothing. But then the hitting on 3s that they cannot interact with, and then I'm wounding on 3s, and I'm AP3. So when they armor contempt, which they're inevitably going to do, I will be at least putting the Land Raider on a 4+ save with the hammer. So I was thinking more, well, my side cannons are good, but they're not good into anything higher than toughness 10, because then the efficiency drops. So I needed some extra efficiency to be able to deal with it in combat. And then combined with the mortal wounds that I can do with the librarians, and also then potentially grenade strat as well, I can go, on average, I get 2d3, so that's 4 mortal wounds, a grenade strat for 3. That's already 11 wounds on a Land Raider. And then I can, chip it away. And then if I need to, not dedicate my shooting into it and go in for the charge and kill it. Because then 5 attacks hit on 3s. Let's say 3 will hit. 2 will wound. I probably will CP reroll 1, maybe get 3. And they pass maybe 1 or 2 of those. It will potentially kill the Land Raider left. So I was thinking that way in my head.
I think that's great. I wish, and this is why I like this little series of podcasts we're doing, because that wouldn't have even crossed my mind. Part of that is because as a Necron player, we seem to have forgotten how to make grenades because we haven't got a
you've not even got a grenades keyword anywhere.
not in the entire book,
which is mental. Yeah, I think that thinking of like how to kill a particular target definitely comes from my Tau brain, because yes, I'm blessed with shooting, but then when it comes to the combat, I'm pretty much non-existent. So I didn't want to have to waste all of my shooting that becomes inefficient against a target, because then I could be shooting other stuff. And if I don't kill that with my inefficient shooting, so I'm winning on 5s, then I've not done any damage, and I might not even kill the thing. So I wanted to be able to go mortals. That deals with that because there's no rolling to it. Well, there is rolling, but there's no saves and winning on 5s and stuff. It's just, did I get it off? Yes, cool. Insert average mortals. And the potential to spike as well. So it's just almost guaranteed damage. So then I don't have to stress about allocation of shooting, and then I can just go, cool, mortals, charge, done.
Yeah, I really like that, Kyle, and I wish I'd thought about that a bit more. I'm just relying on volume of fire here because I've got nothing that's really going to deal with, because I've gone with swords on all of the Dread Knights, so I've really got nothing that's going to deal with heavy armor, which is crazy because I'm taking my Necrons to Battlefield Birmingham at the weekend. I'm taking 2 monoliths and the Silent King. So looking at it with somebody else's eyes, I should have thought, how am I going to deal with 2 monoliths and the Silent King? And I obviously didn't think straight because I don't think this could.
But I think this exercise that you're doing on your podcast is really great, because let's just say if we were both, if you take it one step further and think, actually, we've chosen a faction that maybe we have access to, and we were both just going to go to an event and try it out. We had this discussion now. Now, I like your mission play stuff. You've chosen the squads that can shoot after they come in. And I'm like, actually, yeah, I can see the application of that. I wasn't necessarily going down that route because I just gave up on it because of the points. And then you've obviously taken the hammers, and what you mentioned about the Land Raider. But then you combine both of those like philosophies of how we've approached it and make a balanced list, and suddenly you can have a bit of everything then, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of like that this exercise, I suppose, encourages that. Speaking two people, different philosophies, make one, I don't know, mega list.
Oh, hang on. I haven't got the mental capacity to deal with a third series where we actually pull these together and make one that is make a proper list. That ain't going to happen. All right. So you've got a list that delivers mortal wounds through grenades, through psychic powers, and 5 big horrible knights, plus the sticky objectives. And then on your go turn, you can rush across the table and beat people up, or you can teleport in and just get the angles on the things that he really doesn't want you to shoot.
Yeah.
Sitting on objectives, maybe they're just holding them. That's kind of your plan.
Yep.
My plan is basically to have a couple of big shooter units that deep strike in with all the buffs they can get with the Tech Marine. So the Tech Marine's healing them D3 every time. He's getting them +1 to hit every time. He's a lone operative, so he could deep strike onto an objective along with 2 knights and say, well, hey, what are you going to do now? I'm pretty safe with my mates here.
Yeah.
And then, as you say, the interceptor squads are going to be jumping in and moving 6 after they've shot. And then the Purifier squad, I just found when I played it, it was a bully. He just teleported it into the middle of the table, walked it across the table, hosing everybody down with purifying flames, storm bolters, and you've got to deal with it. It's going to die, but actually, do I care if it dies? Not really. Not really. That's my plan.
Yep. And I think the other plan that, and actually I was just thinking, I forgot to mention before, was that I actually hate sometimes how in order to do a secondary, you have to sacrifice a resource.
Yeah.
So the reason I will have it open for my librarian with the sigil to be on his own rather than the unit is that I could literally just go yeet him away, go and do a secondary like behind mid lines or the homers, and then go, all right, and then I will teleport away and I keep that resource alive to then go and do another action. So I'm basically double downing on the scoring element and a little bit of damage sprinkled in there. So,
the one thing we haven't talked about very much is the stratagems that Grey Knights have, and the one that always people talk about is the Mists of Deimos, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which is, it's pretty awesome. And that's the one you're talking about, I think. That's the one where anybody moves within 9 inches, you go, ha ha, see ya. A bit like your Riptide.
Yeah, it can basically they'd get if you end your normal move or fallback move or advance within 9, you can just go, see ya. So with the sigil, with the guy that if you target him, he just gets that for free.
Yeah.
And then the other units, you can then go, cool, they're going to go away as well. So then you have 2 pieces that your opponent can't interact with. So I don't know, let's just say you got deployed teleporters and area denial. You go, okay, cool, unit drops in, area denial, other guy, back of your field, 3-inch deep strike, deploy teleporters for 5, area denial for 5, cool, right then. Get within 9 of this unit, and I'm going to go away, and he's going to go away as well. Obviously, a smart player wouldn't get within 9, and then you've got your unit in the middle going, crap.
yeah. Even my flamers are 12-inch range.
But still, the concept of being able to do that, because it's very tricksy, and time is a resource in a game. So, having to think about all this stuff really puts your opponent on the back foot.
The other thing it does is it stops people moving. Because they don't want you, so you can deny movement into a critical part of the board if you really want to. Because if they move within 9, you're going to disappear, and it's a difficult one. Well, they've also got armor of contempt, true silver armor, which is always good. You can't complain about that. They've got haloed in soul fire, What's that say? Until the start of your movement phase. Oh,
Yeah,
that's great. You can't be. It's lone operative.
but you can only. This is a really weird one, right? Because you can only use it. So it says one Grey Knight Psyche unit from your army that is arriving using the Deep Strike or Teleport assault ability this phase. So you kind of have to preemptively do it. So I'm teleporting in and I'm spending that stratagem. So now I'm lone up. You can't wait
Yeah.
than be alone up like other reactive stratagems, like your Necron one, where they
Yeah.
go, nah, whatever's got Canoptic, I can make any of these units in your shooting phase lone up. So this one, you have to spend the CP, and bear in mind it's in a turn 2 CP, and bear in mind in your go turn, you're going to want to maybe do maybe True Silver for any Overwatch or anything like that next turn. So there's too many CPs that you're spending to get within 3, potentially having to do True Silver Armor, and then this.
Yeah.
Too much of a tax. So I think this one is just poorly worded.
Yeah, I get you.
I do feel for Grey Knight players. It should just be like everyone else's. Make it lower.
I don't think it was the intent. I think it's just the way it's worded.
Yeah.
I mean, but don't forget also that the Grand Masters only cost 1 command point. For anything that costs 2, if it's on them, it only costs them 1. It's in there. I think it's one of their abilities. So you can stretch it a bit if you wanted to. What about Death from the Warp, Kyle? What does that do?
So that one is Grey Knight Psyche unit from your army that arrived either advanced this turn or arrived using the Deep Strike or Teleport Assault abilities this turn. Until the end of the turn, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Assault ability, and each time a model in your unit makes an attack.
So hang on, does that apply to your 14-inch moving?
Yeah. Well, they can advance and shoot anyway.
Well, who are you going to put this on?
I mean, if you want the +1 to hit, I suppose. Add 1 to hit roll. That could be kind of clutch. I'm not giving it my Terminators. I've got bolters, for God's sake.
I know. Well, nearly everybody's got bolters. That's why I'm not.
So, I don't know. Look, it's one of those situational things of like, would I like to hit on 2s with a side cannon? If the answer is no, I don't need it, then no, I won't be using that stratagem. But if I would like to guarantee something dead to hit on 2s, then yeah, sure, I will do.
Yeah.
But it's only 6 shots, so then what? You go from 4 hits to like 5? You're getting 1 additional shot that goes through for 1 CP?
Yeah. Nah. 3. No, it's not going to do anything.
Obviously, the prognosticated arrival.
That's a good one.
Yeah, every time. Thank you very much. 1 CP.
3 inches away.
3 inches away. Oh, I can't charge. Oh, well. I'm 3 inches away. And I like the use of this just for objective play. If they haven't screened the center, you can just go, oh, my Terminator unit that's OC3 on your model, I'll put them on the edge of the objective. Thank you very much. It's now taken.
Yeah. Even if you just have one model on the objective and the other 4 behind a wall somewhere, so you're saving them from more than one unit shooting at them.
And then let's say 1 activation, you do the quick silver armor, they kill 1 Terminator, you just bring that guy back, and you go, you've done nothing, and I'm still here.
Yeah. And then you pull a funny face at them.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then Radiant Strike is the other one, which just basically turns their weapons into devastating wounds if they've got. So that's close combat stuff, basically. You're talking about.
Yeah, and that I like that with my Terminator unit with Drago.
Yeah, because he's going to be dropping in 9 inches away, getting +3 to his charge. Yeah. He's not going to fail that, is he? No. I mean, we've all done it, but
it's not impossible. But statistically, with a CPU roll, you should be making that charge. But there's always that time when they fail it the first time, and the look of dread in their face. Yeah. Please not again. Please not again.
Mate, I've failed a 4-inch charge with a command reroll, so I know it can be done.
Yeah. And I think these stratagems, we can agree that, at least, 1, 2, at least 5 out of these stratagems are ones that you want to use.
Yeah.
So that's why when we were talking before about tactical or fixed, this is why I think tactical is better for Grey Knights, because you do need the CP to make a lot of these combos kind of work. So, all right, you get a crap card at the turn that you didn't want. You just go, well, it's a CP, which allows me to do another trick. And I think Grey Knights really want that over going fixed.
So now that you've had, you may not have had a good look at Grey Knights in the past, Kyle, and now that you've had a bit of a fiddle with the lists, what's your feeling about it? Because I've got a feeling that you're going to be seeing more of these guys And I don't know whether they're going to be top table, but I think they're going to be the kind of list that they're easy-ish to paint.
Yeah.
They're easy-ish to get hold of. They do all the things that you want them to do. And I think for the sort of medium to not quite top players, these could be quite a powerful list.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to fit firmly in what we call the mid-table menace. And obviously that's, if you look at the stat check data, they have obviously your top tiers that you'll see on the rankings, and then you'll have the mid-table menaces, which are usually sitting in that kind of sweet spot of like 48 to 52%. And I think Grey Knights will fit comfortably within that. And in the hands of a very skilled player, I think it can make it all the way. Hats off to Ed Watts, who went second, right?
Yeah.
With Grey Knights. So, perfect example of good general, army that people maybe have underestimated, and then bam, Grey Knights are in. So, I think that they're going to be a headache for people at the beginning, and then it's whether or not people will just cotton on to the tricks and then get used to them. So, I think if armies don't have access to deep strike denial or screens, they're in for a rough game. Rough.
What about okay? I get you, and I think you're right. I think in the hands of a good player, either one of our lists, I think, could be pretty handy. Yours, I think, is actually better thought through, but I would expect that because of your skill and experience. But I think they could both do okay. What do you think are going to be the sort of armies that the top players are going to have to tech in for? Now, I'll tell you what I think, and I could be wrong. I think Eldar are still there or thereabouts. There's a lot of them out there, so there'll still be some. I think Custodes are hugely difficult to move once they get on primaries, and I think they're going to be at the top table. And now that Dave Gaylord has started to started on his epiphany and his charging around with indirect firing guard, I think they're going to be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think those are the three at the top, or do you think there's anybody else up there?
Yeah, I think obviously currently the meta, Guard are obviously, I agree, Guard are very powerful because of indirect and the application of just constant resources. I think Eldar now switching to the more into the MSU.
Yeah.
And I know you've got a couple of generals, Vic VJ being one of them, who is lovely guy, but also very good at testing stuff, and he's not afraid to test new things like the Scargrath Wraith or whatever it's called. So I think Eldar are still going to surprise people, and they're going to lean into the MSU build and D cannons. So I think they're still going to be potent. I also think that, yes, Custodes, because that's just an obvious, I can stat check you, and that's it. And they've always done well, and when they have done well, it's because they can stat check people with all these 4-pin guns, phenol paint and stuff. And then when they get the nerf bat, they go out of existence. So Custodes is an up or down, or down, never in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think the other armies that people need to watch out for is armies like Drukhari, because, again, new faction rule, new detachment rule, and the MSU style builds. And I think I kind of try to look at the meta in a very kind of simplistic way. It's, what are people trying to achieve? Are they going to just stat check you with vehicles? Are they going to stat check you with infantry? Or are they going to stat check you on both ends? And I think a lot of these top armies, Custodes, stat check, MSU build with Eldar, bodies everywhere, making you kind of get activation locked and stuff like that. So I look at what armies have those like skill sets or potential. And I think any army that has that are going to do really well currently. And then obviously Tau, but
stupid of me. What a silly boy.
But the thing is with Tau, it's very similar to Guard. There's lots of Tau players out there, and I think people just get fixed in terms of taking crisis. And armies that can just have loads of stuff, loads of cheap stuff, are a menace on the tabletop. So
they are.
I agree with the Custodes. I agree with Guard. I think flavors of pointy-eared elves is accurate. And then you've got like potential sleeper lists like the Grey Knights coming through, Drukhari particularly, and then I reckon some Harlequins will probably come in there again.
I agree. I was looking at a Drukhari list, and I tried to build one, and it got to so big. I thought, I'm never going to bloody well paint this, even if I because by the time I had 6 I had 6 Raiders, I had something like 4 Venoms, I had 3 Ravagers, and I was thinking, by the time I'm never going to paint it, it's never going to happen. So
you get it all painted right, and then they'll get nerfed, and you'll be like, God damn it!
Kyle, listen, let's draw a line under it for that. That is wonderful, and thank you so much for all your time. I hope that the listener has learned something from that. I certainly have, and I really enjoy that idea of using the little wrinkles to cause mortal wounds before you actually do anything with models. And I know about tank shock because I've got, I use it.
Yeah.
Grenades I've never used because I've never used an army that has grenades. That's stupid. The psychic stuff, Necrons haven't got any psychic stuff, so I've never used that. But the way you've explained how to use a Brotherhood Psyker librarian, he's a really powerful piece of kit. Really, really powerful.
And I think one thing, just before the listeners back to this, I think with the units that have grenades, you can do it. But unfortunately, I've just double checked, and the Brotherhood librarian doesn't have the grenade keyword, so I can't.
No.
But I can still do the 2d3 more wounds, and that's just an oversight because I don't do Grey Knights. But
No, but you could put him with a unit of something that has grenades if you really wanted to. Mind you, that the problem is the cheapest unit you got is a strike squad, and it's not cheap.
Yeah, I suppose if he's on his own, he doesn't have grenades. But if the Brotherhood Terminator squad has grenade keywords, so there.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah,
Kyle, thank you very much. I will. I can't tell you how pleased I am to have. I've met you a couple of times at events, and I've walked past you a couple of times. Usually sulking, probably when I've just had my face pushed in, but. I hopefully will see you. Are you go? When's the next one you're going to?
It'll be the Manchester Super Major at the end of this month. I'll be going there. What about yourself?
I've got this weekend Battlefield Birmingham, and then the one after that is the International Teams Tournament in Birmingham.
Nice.
Which our team is a bit of a joke team. This is what we're going to do. Don't tell anybody, Kyle. But everybody is going to take a vehicle or monster only list.
Amazing. Monster mash, vehicle mash, love it.
The idea is that we'll lose 2 of those, but the other 3, nobody will have the faintest idea how to deal with that. How are they going to match up against? I put together a list with my Necrons. It was just everything had a 4-up invulnerable, and 2 of them were monoliths.
Troll, you absolute troll team. It's going to be fun. Good luck in that one, and good luck at Battlefield Birmingham.
Thank you, Kyle. I'll talk to you again soon, I hope. Take care.
Take care, man.
Hang on. Thank you, Kyle. What a great discussion about Grey Knights and the list and the options and where they sit in the meta at the moment. Thanks very much for your time, mate. That was terrific and so good to hear from a world-class player. Now, our lists weren't too far apart. Not as far apart as when I compared my Necron list with Vic VJ's Necron list. So I'm quite happy with the way I was thinking about that. I might be getting better. The thing I missed were things like the ability to deal out free wounds on units, grenades, tank shock, vortex of doom from librarians, those kind of things. We were working it out, and we could do something like 11 wounds on something like a Land Raider before you even shot at it or swung at it. That can make a massive difference. And I really like the way that was thinking. And that's not something I can do very much in the Necron list because we don't really have a lot of those stratagems. But if I was building another army, then that's certainly something I'd think about. Okay, so those are the little things that made a difference. If you like what I'm doing here, please do hit the like button, press a subscribe, and I'll be able to do more. It's surprising how the cost of subscribing to different platforms creeps up after a while. So anything you can do to help me, or at least make me feel as though I'm not screaming into the void and my messaging is useless and futile, would be really appreciated. Okay, what am I doing next? I mentioned in the chat with Kyle that I'm off to Battlefield Birmingham. That's going to be interesting. The lists have just been released, and Manny Chima, possibly one of the best players in the country, is going with Grey Knights, would you believe? He's taken all vehicles, all vehicles except for a couple of tech marines and some henchmen to do bugger all with. 5 dreadnoughts and 3 land raider redeemers. That's a lot of metal to get through. So if you haven't brought anti-tank, watch out for yourself. Should be fun. Should be fun. Or not, depending on whose side you're on and how you can do it. But now that we know that people can throw grenades, do Vortex of Doom, and half kill a Land Raider before actually shooting at it, might be half a chance to do something. Anyway, if you like what you've seen, do it. I'm going to put the army lists in the chat on YouTube. So please have a look at those. And I'm going to put the link to Kyle's Pure Tide program. For those of you who are interested in learning how to play Tau better, just look it up, click on it. You couldn't get a better deal and a better expert than Kyle. Next week, I'll be reviewing my performance at Battlefield Birmingham and letting you know how magnificently I did. What I'm hoping to do is to be in the final game against Manny Chima, and so at least I can say I played the winner. Until then, see you on the ice.